Get your money out of the banks. We've all heard the warnings, and I've been sharing valuable information with you all about the banks and how they're playing games with your money as they struggle through this liquidity crisis. And Walmart has some clever tricks up their sleeve that should be taken as a serious warning to Walmart workers, employees, truck drivers, and anyone else who is connected to the giant retailer's supply chain. These are game-changing moves that will ultimately wipe out the middle class. More on that later. Now, we have a lot to cover, so we're going to get right into it. And as always, thank you all for your love and support. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, you can replay and rewatch this video as many times as you want. So don't worry if you miss anything while we're going along. And Michelle's channel link is in the description too. So make sure you go check her out every single day and subscribe. And sorry guys, I'm a little under the weather. So I'm soldiering through this one, pushing through. My voice may sound a little nasally, but I think I'll survive. Okay, so Kanye West, JP Morgan Chase. The banks are literally flexing their muscles. You know, they've given him notice that he has to remove his money from their banks. They are no longer interested in banking with Kanye West.
Are you going to go into why?
No, I'm not going to go into why. I'm going to go into the fact that the banks have the ability to pick and choose what they want to do. The banks are flexing their muscles. Now, the key is, can you imagine what would happen to the little guy? Kanye has a voice and a platform, so they have to tread lightly. But if it were the average American, average Joe, middle class, blue collar, what would happen to them?
Well, I don't think they're treading lightly because Kanye has a voice and a platform. They have to tread lightly because Kanye has a lot of money and can fight them. The little guy can't. So there's the difference to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, the little guy may not get that 30-day notice or however long Kanye has to move his money.
That's true. They were giving him time to finish moving money from point A to point B, finish paying off things, whatever else. So, I mean, you're right. Because, I mean, when Bank of America closed our kids' account, I didn't know until I got a letter in the mail that said, hey, we closed it. There was no we're going to. There was no anything else. They just closed it. And because I was her mother, they took what was left in there and just immediately moved it over to my account without asking or without saying anything.
Now, fortunately, I think perhaps maybe these banks, if that weren't the case, you'd get a check in the mail with that letter. But, you know, there is risk of banks and their liquidity crisis. So there could be some folks out there with some substantial amounts of money in the bank that could potentially be vulnerable and at risk. But let's be honest here. Most people don't have any money to get out of the banks. So we're seeing the headlines, we're seeing the videos, we're seeing the stories, good, bad, or indifferent, mostly bad, about get your money out of the banks. But I think the biggest issue at hand really is the fact that most people don't have any money to get out.
I think the big issue, it's not get your money out of the banks. It's going to be if you have credit cards through the bank, what happens when they cut off your line of credit or something? That to me is scarier because a lot of people don't have savings. I mean, most Americans don't have $500 in their savings account if they need help or whatever. But a lot of us have credit cards through our banking companies, our bank accounts, whatever else. And even if you don't have money, you're like, well, at least I have a line of credit, my bank card, my credit card that I can fall back on. But if they're closing down accounts, why would they leave your credit line open?
More than likely, the odds are they wouldn't. But I want to clarify that a credit card and a line of credit are two totally different things.
You're correct. That's my fault.
For some, particularly businesses, they have lines of credit, which if you recall at the beginning of the pandemic, Meet Kevin actually discussed how he drew down his lines of credit at the first sight of any potential pandemic or epidemic or shutdown or lockdown or shelter in place. He immediately drew down his line of credit, maxed it out before the banks could cut it off.
I always mentally say line of credit to myself because when you get a credit card in the mail, it says your credit line, your credit limit, whatever else. And so I equate the two together, and they are not the same.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you can't use the credit card in the same way. The lines of credit typically had, prime plus, 0.5%. So to draw that money down and have the cash available for the unknown that nobody knew what was going to happen every single day was very, very valuable, probably very comforting. And he used it in a way that brought him a tremendous return. So that was excellent usage of the funds. But a credit card, I mean, you could do a cash advance, but
But you're
really,
going to pay out the wazoo for it. I mean, if your normal APR is 29%, if you do a cash advance, you're looking at like 34% to pay that back.
yeah. So the line of credit and the credit card, a little different.
Yes.
But at the end of the day,
Sorry.
I don't think that the people have, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would be thrilled if I was wrong. But from the emails and comments and messages that I receive and the people that I talk to on a regular basis, it just doesn't seem like people have the money to get out of the banks, to be worried about getting out of the banks.
Now, you got to look at it from two different standpoints, though. There may be some who don't have money in the bank because they don't have money at all. And there may be some who don't have money in the bank because they have their money invested in other ways.
Perhaps, maybe, which we do need to talk about that in investing. Most people probably invest in a 401k, which unfortunately, I was watching Valuetainment today, and he was mentioning how most boomers never even touch or adjust or manage their 401k outside of setting it up. So the way that they put it together at first is the same way it is decades later, and the market has changed, which is putting them in these positions of vulnerability. But at the end of the day, there are still some folks out there who may have had some money, but have blown through their savings just to try to keep up and survive through inflation, high prices, buying food and groceries, paying for the necessities. Meanwhile, inflation is fueled by corporations jacking up prices. So we did a deep dive on the dilemma and problems caused by mega corporations over the last few years, and those that have put us in this tight squeeze right now. I'm going to put a link in the description, so you guys go watch that and check that out after this video. Additionally, retirees are being forced to go back to work, but the big problem is the jobs won't necessarily be available for them to go back to work to.
Well, yeah, because you have to think about it. A lot of times the same jobs that retirees are going back to are the same type of jobs that high schoolers or people who've just graduated high school are going into. A lot of times it is the same workforce, whether it's retail or restaurants or, Walmart kind of things like that. But those are the first ones that seem to be going kaput everywhere. So not only do retirees who need the money to continue living end up with nothing, but these kids who are trying to get into learning how to go to work and make money and save money, they're going to be kind of shot in the foot as well.
Additionally, at the same time, you got Intel, you've got Microsoft, you got Walmart, you got FedEx, you've got multiple different businesses and corporations laying off employees. So even if that opportunity was available, the positions that are open are going to be eliminated. So the retirees are then further inhibited from being able to go back to work. Mm-hmm. But this is Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, announced this, that he wanted to soften the jobs market. He wanted to try to bring down inflation by jacking up interest rates. At the same time, this is going to cause some pain to businesses and families. As he slowed the economy, jobs were lost. I think the number was 1.2 million jobs lost, estimated.
So here's my question. If the Fed and Jerome Powell has all this power to do these kind of things, why can't they just go to these big corporations and say, hey, how about y'all make it so that people can live? How about you make it so that people have jobs? How about you make it so that people can afford to eat and do these things? Well, as opposed to, hey, you know what? Forget that. We'll just screw over the Americans.
They can't do that. They can't do that.
But they can do that to us.
They can't do that. But what I will say is, I don't want to, it's a whole nother video.
I know, but I get a little heated.
But what I do want to say is that what they could do is incentivize the businesses to do those things. So the Federal Reserve can't make people buy and sell houses, mm-hmm. but they can manipulate interest rates and the money supply to encourage the transactions.
Now, technically, didn't they incentivize companies during the pandemic with the PPP loans? And
that's
stuff like
what
that?
I was going to get at, was the fact that they can incentivize them. They can put things in place that would theoretically lead to more jobs created, more money. However, businesses could take advantage of that.
Which is what has happened, and which is why we are where we are.
They could take advantage of that, but also, I don't think that they want people to have the money. So that's
I agree with you on that one.
This is a distraction from what is actually happening in the background. Again, that's a whole nother video. But with that being said, money is an issue. No money in the banks to get out. And credit cards should not be a last resort. And more comments are coming in asking for credit and FICO score help. So a lot of people are they're not banking on improving their financial situation. They're not banking on increasing their income, generating multiple income streams. They're not banking on reducing their budgets and saving money and buckling down. They're literally banking on, I got a credit card.
That sounds like me when I was younger and screwed my entire credit up and everything else. That's a horrible idea, FYI.
So that's why I wanted to bring that up, is because you are going to be putting together an amazing video for your channel with basically all the ins and outs and secrets and tips and hacks to take your credit score from like a 5-something to 8, 10?
20.
820.
Don't get it wrong.
820. So, as well as pulling cash out of home equity, which a lot of people are talking about more and considering. But now the problem is home values could be trending downward. So the appraised value of the homes could be trending downward, which will theoretically lower the amount of equity available. Interest rates are going up. So to borrow the money against your home's equity will cost you more. While the banks are having a liquidity crisis issue, most banks probably aren't going to be entertaining home equity loans or home equity line of credit. And Valuetainment, again, said that the average credit score for those looking to get a home equity line of credit was like almost 800. Mm-hmm. So this leaves a lot of people out in the cold.
So here's my question for you, and I don't know if this is really something you could answer possibly, but do you think, I don't know if you can answer this, do you think that if you are an older person, older couple, older single person, whatever, who has their home and knows they don't plan on selling it anytime, and also knows that the home will probably outlast them, would they be a good person to go ahead and go for that home equity line of credit, even with the interest rates that are there, because it will help them finish out their days?
Well, it also depends on their credit score. It depends on their income, because they still have to go through underwriting and prove that they have the ability to repay.
So what you're saying is anybody older than the working age is screwed?
I think anybody at the working age.
Okay,
like,
that part too. Yeah, that's
this
true,
is
actually.
we are in a struggle. I think there needs to be some clarification on what it really means to get your money out of the banks, for the simple fact of the matter is people don't have money in the banks. Mm-hmm. Maybe get your money out of your house. Well, maybe you can't. Like everybody's touting the headlines and trying to scare everybody and warn everybody with some factual information of what's actually going on. But at the end of the day, I think there's so much lacking and missing. There's a huge gap to be filled for information and education to help people know what their options are and how to execute on them. So I want you guys to comment below so we can gauge the interest and urgency on what videos you want us to bring you guys next. And layoffs are coming. And middle class is getting replaced by automation and technology. We've been talking about this. This further harps on and drills down on what we have been talking about for months now. And I have a video I'm going to release probably tomorrow about a new development and a new automation system that Walmart has purchased and is going to be using to literally change the face of grocery stores. And you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, thanks. I love being in the dark. This is so fun.
They're changing grocery stores as we know it to the point at which they could literally run themselves without any real people.
I already hate it.
You guys take care. Be safe. See you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.